All right, we are on the final part 4 of this lesson on CSS formatting with graphics. Let's go ahead and hit quick start. We are on our last lesson where we pretty much have everything going. We're just going to add a few more elements to make this report user-friendly and allow our clients, our customers, our staff to be able to customize the reports they want on the fly and be able to export or copy those things and do more information with them. So let's duplicate our part 3, please, and rename this to be our final part. And notice this error, we'll correct that in a minute. Let's go to part 4 and take out the word copy here and submit and close that. So if you notice, we were getting that error on the drawing of it. And it's partly a bug on my part of the code, but I left it so that you could figure out if you see this error, where is it that we have to go and change something? And I just happen to know that in my columns, when we duplicated this record and we go to the builder, if you go down to the currency and we hit this currency render function again, the add default content got wiped out. So by just re-putting that value in there, we then now have the error message going away. It no longer appears. So I will just prove that by coming back to the video, and we do not see any issues here. Okay, so that's how you fix it, default content with no value, and we can move on. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to add a couple user-friendly features. So the first one we're going to do is when I'm clicking here, nothing's happening. We're going to add a feature that's called select row. And when we do that, it will actually show the user the rows that they selected and keep that in memory. So let's go to our libraries tab. And what we need to do here is add the JavaScript library to do select. So keep in mind, some of these things you think, are they native or they're not? But this one is not. We actually have to add this extension called select in order for that feature to work. So let's go ahead and preview that and now see what happens. When I select this, nothing's happening. That's because I haven't enabled it on the data table settings. All I've done is added the library. So when I go into my JS function, what I need to do is go into this area up here, and I will just, I think I'll put it right after the DOM just to say where we are. And I paste this. And all I'm saying is when I have the select, I want it to be true. Now, if you want to turn it off, you just simply say false or don't include it. But let's go see now. When I hit this, do you notice that I'm hitting select? And I'm also holding down the shift key here. And now I'm holding down the control key, or I'm sorry, you can select multiple areas of your system to be able to choose different rows. So that's what select does. It allows your user to choose rows. And that'll be powerful for us later as we do a copy and say, only choose the selected rows that we have. Okay, the other feature that we're going to add now is, let's go ahead and toggle our business unit off just to change our, you can see the select is still there. We can do a search for like 2022, and that's great. I'm just going to leave it on this. But what I want to do is I want to add a row group, which basically says, hey, let's toggle that back on. At the end of every section here, I want to have a line break or a sub-summary in FileMaker, but I'm not going to add any totals to it at this point. We're just going to add that feature on. So in order to do that, again, we're adding another library JavaScript extension. So let's go to our libraries. And the first thing we're going to do is add our JavaScript that says, hey, we need to have a new library installed to run what we're asking it. And this library is called row group. But in addition to that, we also need to have the styling applied. So I'm going to go up to this area, the optional styling, and we're going to paste in that we need the row group for Bootstrap installed. So that'll help us draw the context. But if we go back, nothing's happening here, right? We're just still seeing the same thing. Again, I'm going to just search for 2022 just to make this a little bit easier to find. But what we need to do is now add the row group function, similar that we did for this true, to our settings. Okay, and what that looks like is this feature, and you can add multiple row groups or multiple things to group. But what I'm saying here is in row group, the source that I want you to actually group is this field. And this needs to be labeled as the data field, not how its presentation label looks or its column header. So I'm telling this system, please group the row on business unit. And let's go see what that looks like. Awesome. It redrew my canvas. I'm redrawing. And now I've got by business group, everything ordered. Okay, so let me take that off. And I just want to show you if you wanted to add another field to group by. So I'm putting a comma. I'm saying, hey, let's also group it by year. And let's go see what that looks like. So now I've got software and year. So the order is important when you do that. But if I were to say 2022, you see it's not that important. But if, it's repeating itself, probably not necessary. So just be careful on what you do for the order here. For purposes of this lesson, I'm just going to remove the extra one. We don't really need to see year grouped, but that's how easy it is. You just tell the system what column or columns you want ordered or grouped, and make sure you put those in the correct order. Okay, speaking of order, what do we want this to appear as? So we can tell DataTables on initially loading our data set how to order the columns. And so what I'm saying right here out of the box is that the year is sorted in ascending order by 2012 and all the way down. So if I were to look at all of our data and I went through, we've got years and years of data sorted. I want to change that. I want I want 2023 to be the top, coming down in descending order. And then I want to leave then I want to sort, let's just show you here, guys. If I were to put 2022, then I want it sorted by business unit. So let's make sure that it's sorted year descending, then business unit ascending, and we'll leave the rest of it alone. So how do we do that? Back in our JS function, in this area where we're setting all of the settings for the data table, we're going to add another feature. So this is how you initialize your presentation to have ordering. So if we can kind of remember how we've done things before, we're saying we are going to order our data in this format. So it's an array of decisions. The 0th indexed field, which we know to be year by looking over here, we want it to format in descending order. Then next, we want the business unit field to be in ascending order. Okay, let's just go see what that looks like. And it's doing what I asked it to do. It's saying in 2023 first, then advertising next. Okay, making sense? We're seeing what we want there. So if I were to say 2021, I've got the year sorted, and then it goes advertising, hardware, software. That's looking good. And then we did not sort anything else. But let's just say, for purposes of like showing what we're doing here, let's sort it by any one of these, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, January. So let's go and sort this by January descending and see how that works. Do you see now everything is going this direction, but we're still grouping by advertising. So be careful on how you end up showing your presentation, but you could also add options here to say sort by year, sort by business unit. This allows you to give I'm trying to give you information or possibilities of how you can put combinations of buttons with sorts, or even add them up here to say sort by, in addition to what you're doing here. So these natively still work, but we could come back and turn the sorting off on these columns so that a user could not sort by anything than what you've already said. Okay, that is kind of cool. Like we got the ordering and we got some things happening here. What I want to show you now is we're going to add an image to this database, and then we're going to wrap up this by just kind of showing you some more examples of all of it put together for you guys. So what we want to do here is just kind of personalize this report. for our clients. And for purposes of this, I'm going to show you that we're going to try to add an image in this section right here. So to do that, there's a couple steps we take. DataTables has an interesting feature that says, you know, if you put a tag in called toolbar, it allows you to put whatever you want inside that div tag element. So let's go show you how that actually happens. Go into your JS function, and we're talking about the DOM here. So when we go here, we've only talked about this feature right now where we're basically saying, show me the information. You can see length, filtering, table. Those are the things that we have in there. The B is for buttons. We're going to add a new one now following it, and it's going to look like this. So let me just paste this in here for your reference. So the only thing that we did differently here is that we added this new div tag called toolbar. And that's just DataTables' way of saying, I'll give you an area of the page to put whatever you want in it. So let's just submit that and say, okay, and nothing's changed. And that makes sense because we haven't put anything in that div. We've just said we would like it to, similar to how we added the B for buttons, but it didn't display a button until we told it we need a button. So this part's a little, you know, different. I'm going to grab some code that I worked on just to have an illustrative point, but you could put anything in here. This is free reign for you. But where we're going to go put this area. So this is where the toolbar is actually saying it's going to put, because we told it in the DOM, it's going in this position right behind the buttons, but before the table. To do that, I am going down to the bottom section here where we say, hey, draw this data table. And I'm going to add some space here. And I know this could probably be put somewhere else, but for purposes of right now, I'm going to paste the code here. And it's long and ugly and whatever. But what it's really saying is, hey, div toolbar, that's the reference when we're saying we're talking about that position in the table. Here's the prefix. Whatever I put in between these brackets, the HTML, this is what I want you to draw. This is the canvas inside of it. And what I'm telling it is, please link to this site. And I want you to show this Codence image with this width and height. So I kind of just pre-drew this before we got together, and I just put this in here, but anything can go in here. A text box could go in here, a block of code, another button. You could put whatever you want in here. This section is for you to customize. If I come over to the preview, you can see that this Codence image is now working here, and it's got a button. It works as that with a hover tag and everything. But what I don't love right now is that it's squished up against my other buttons. I kind of want this Codence image to go over here. Well, anybody know how to do that? Hopefully you've watched enough videos. Basically, we are going to add a class and change the style of this particular toolbar element so that we can handle its positioning and what it wants to do. So to do that, we go into our CSS area right here. And I am just, because it's technically part of the report and not a column, I'm going to add it to this section right here. And let's paste. So I created a CSS class called toolbar. I'm telling it to write a line. Here's the padding I want for it, and to include a cursor pointer. So what does that look like? I hope that it works. So yes, the Codence moved all the way to the right like I wanted it to aligned, and there it is sitting right there. I think everything there looks pretty good. Now, if you remember, or maybe you just picked up on, in the code that I pasted, I actually told it to do a hyperlink. So now I'm adding some activity here. So if I go over to this link and I press this button, it will open up the blog that I've written for this entire series. So go check that out. But we're not quite done. What I want to show you is putting all of this conditional formatting, what you've learned together in the sense of what the user wants. Okay, so what we're going to do is show you a couple examples of how the Excel can work with the visibility and what you're choosing. So for purposes of this, let's go ahead and toggle the business unit off. We don't maybe want it because I have it right here. And I want to point out that we're also going to choose all quarters, okay? And for purposes of this, we're saying we're showing 1 to 50 of 350 rows. So if I hit the copy button right now, I would expect that I'm going to get 50 or 351 rows of data. And I hit that and it tells me so. So let's go into Excel and just open that up. We're going to open up our lesson and paste that in here. I have all of the data here, and I'm just going to format it again so we can see it easily. And here we go. We have 351 rows of data. And I want to point out, note how it's only copying the rows that I had on the screen. And for this purposes, it left the formatting native to what was happening in FileMaker. This is really important to watch because I did not change the formatting of the Q1 and through the totals. You see how they still have their negative sign here, but let's go and choose a different option. Let's go ahead and choose Q1, right? All right, so we're on Q1, and let's go ahead and do a filter for 2022. So now we're looking at just 27 records. I've got the year, account, and for purposes of it, let's turn the business unit back on. So still looking at 2022, 27 records. I'm showing year, business unit, account, January through February with the with the formatting I applied, and then the Q1 does not have the conditional formatting. Watch what happens when we copy those 27 records. So that's important to note that we did this. When I paste the values here, please note this. So it added the column back in that I said visible, but do you notice January, February, and March do not properly format? It took my conditional formatting, what I was displaying on the screen, to actually do it this way. So be careful when you do that. The Q1 total, though, Excel or whatever I'm pasting into recognized the negative format and applied its own styling to that. Let's also just make sure that you understand the power of some of the things your user can control now that we put them in there. Let's go ahead and sort this or filter this for the year 2022. And let's go ahead and say, let's look at just the quarters we're looking at again. And remember, we talked about the select feature. So if I hold down this, let's say we just wanted a couple of columns. We wanted those, and we want these two down here. So right now I have 27 records showing, but I've only selected 1, 2, 3, so many here. If I hit the copy button, what do we expect to happen? I'm going to go over to Excel and let's just paste and see what happens. And I'll just throw on my formatting. Do you notice that it only took the records that we actually selected? So that's pretty cool to inform your users that they can come in here and actually just show what they've selected, so they can customize their own reports and just say, hey, I just want to see this, or I just want to copy this row. That's pretty powerful. But there's another feature I want to make sure that you your users know about. So if I hide the business unit and I'm just looking at the quarters here, and let's clear this, reset it to 2021 so we know we're on a different set of data. Okay, everything is here. We're expecting to look at this report. But if you do not actually have this setting on right here, when we're in the section for the copying, this column's visible right here is saying, that's pretty powerful. It's saying only export or copy the rows that are visible on the screen. But if I disable that and come back, and because I redrew the canvas, I have to get this back. So go 2021 options. Let's hide the business unit and let's do quarters, all quarters. Okay. So we are now just looking at 27 rows, year account. If we copy this, but we have that setting of visible screens off, what do you think is going to happen? Let's copy it. 27 rows, open Excel again. This is our last view. Now, if I hit paste, what do we expect? It is not showing us what was on the screen. It is showing us every column we created. the ones that are visible and not visible. So we're talking the year, the business unit, we're talking January through December that are native, our calculated field, the quarters we built, the currency that we made be invisible with a render, the account that we're not even showing. Everything in our columns definition is present. So be careful when you use that setting to toggle your visibility on to what you want to see. Let me get back down here and show you this too. So let's disable that. But the other thing that's important is if you see this word title, if you do not, I'm just going to put it here, my title goes here. If I put that in here, there's nothing going to happen on the presentation layer. Let's go back and redraw our canvas because we did. I'm just going to go ahead and prove to you that we're just looking at the visible columns again. So here we go. We should only see these things. When I hit copy, I have something in the title field now. And depending on what you need, if I hit paste here, I can say my title goes here. And it adds a header to the Excel document. That may be what you want, it may not be. So if you don't declare a title, I need to show you that as well, that if you don't declare title to be blank, it will put the name of your report here. So I prefer not to have the title in there because I like to format my column headers the way I do with my exports. Okay, so I think we've covered most of the things. A user can select what they see on the screen. They can filter and just show those rows. They can show all rows, and they can select their own rows individually and have those export. They can select a combination of calculated fields and periods. The options are endless. So just be careful on how you do that, and just know that there's a lot of power, and what a user expects to copy on the screen is controlled by you and what you do with that copy settings down here below. And I want to make sure I take that out because I really don't want any features happening there. Okay, I think that's it. We have done a lot in this lesson on CSS and formatting with graphics, and just in general learning about data tables and how powerful it can be on what you want your presentation layer to look like. Okay, I think that's a wrap. I do want to just point out, I'm not sure if we're going to have another lesson, but if I do, we'll just expand on some of these things and learn about some advanced topics as I come up. And maybe that would be additional exporting features, search pane, some other things that I know data tables can do quite well that would be powerful for developers like yourselves to learn from. But if you have specific requests or you want to be able to ask a question, please feel free to reach me at my email handle at codence.com, jody.barney@codence.com, and just shoot me a message. Tell me if you like the series. Tell me if there's something you would be like, this would be really helpful to get me moving in the right direction. I hope this series and lesson has been beneficial for you. I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot developing this course. And remember, I was just like you. So just put your effort to it. Keep trying. Have a business case for what you're learning, and put it to action. So thanks everybody for watching. I wish you nothing but the best.